Hello and welcome to today's event, Modernizing Data Protection with Pure Storage. Today's webinar is brought to you by Pure Storage and produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is David Davis, and I'm excited to be your moderator on today's event. We've got a great event lined up for you today. I know so many companies out there are dealing with aging data protection and disaster recovery solutions. Those solutions are, not cost effective, they're inefficient, they're not reliable, and in most cases, they're not meeting the needs of the business. So that's why this event is so relevant, in my opinion. And I'm thankful for you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us on today's event. Before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping that you need to know about. First off, we want this to be an educational event, so we encourage you to use the GoToWebinar questions box there as much as you'd like. We have experts from Pure Storage standing by to answer all of your technical questions on data protection, the latest innovations in storage, all your storage challenges, disaster recovery. So ask those questions during the event. We'll be doing a dedicated Q&A session at the end, and we'll be queuing up the best questions for that session, so you get your questions in early. I also want to call your attention to a number of handouts we have available for download there in the GoToWebinar control panel. We have 5 different handouts covering next gen data protection from Pure Storage. There's a solutions brief. There's a white paper on how data protection is working in the age of always-on workloads. There's a white paper there on modernizing your data protection from the Enterprise Strategy Group, and a number of other papers there, the 4 tenets of modern data protection. So great content. Make sure you download that now, because you won't have access to those papers and those solutions briefs after the event. So go ahead and just click on those and check those out after the event. And then finally, we'll be giving out one Amazon $300 gift card to one attendee on the live event today. If you're watching this event on demand, I'm sorry, the drawing has already occurred. Prize terms and conditions can be found at events.actualtechmedia.com. And now I'm excited to introduce today's expert presenter. That is Mr. David Huskisson, Rapid Restore Solutions Manager at Pure Storage. David, thank you for being on the event today.
Pleasure.
Well,
Okay.
It's great to have you. I've seen your presentation. You've got some great content lined up for us. Let me go ahead and hand control over to you.
Thank you. Okay, looks like we're all set. Okay, thank you, David. And again, thank you for joining us. I know how busy and valuable your time is, so we appreciate you carving out some time for us today. So as David said, I'm going to be talking about how give you the sort of pure point of view on modernizing data protection. So before we actually get into the technology, I just wanted to share, kind of some insights that we've seen from, from the Pure perspective. So I've spent a lot of time in the data protection universe. I know how complicated and what a thankless task it can be. And, our perspective is vendors, there are a lot of vendors in this space. It's a very competitive part of the IT infrastructure market. And I think certainly what struck me over the years is, there's always a lot of talk about backup. What backup rates am I getting? Can I meet my backup window, my backup SLA? And it's always seemed rather counterintuitive to me that we focus our conversations on backup, but recovery appears to be somewhat of an afterthought. So, and obviously it's always sort of a humorous discussion that, why are we backing up while ultimately to recover? But there's a couple of examples here you can see on the slide. And again, you just go and do some of your own research and, especially look for ransomware kind of outages and so forth. But there's two examples on the slide here. And I think the theme or the message I want to sort of convey to you is these guys were backing up. Right? It's not like, they had an outage or someone deleted something and suddenly they discovered they weren't backing up. These organizations were protecting their data, but in the end, it was largely irrelevant. They were actually protecting it because they couldn't bring the data back quickly enough to meet the requirements of the business. So, you know, ransomware is a big outage, but even human error where, you know, a database administrator inadvertently drops a table, you know, they're being backed up, but just can't recover. So, you know, our view of the world at a very high level is, well, sure, you're backed up. No organization says I'm not backing my data up, you know, and there's audit and so forth. But how many organizations can put their hand on their heart and say, yeah, we are backing up, and we also know we can bring back that data in the time that the business needs. So we sort of coined this view of the world that says, yeah, I'm back up, but I'm not protected. And protected really kind of refers to this, you know, being able to bring the data back quickly enough. And so, you know, to this end, I want to share the results of some research we commissioned, and we had a research company, ESG. You can get access to the paper, but we had a research company go talk to customers, you know, around downtime and the impact of downtime. And you can see here, I just want to share very briefly, you know, some of the results of that survey before we get to the sort of technology piece. And you can see here, we asked customers really around what their tolerance for downtime was. And, you know, from one perspective, it's pretty much as you'd expect, right? If I've got a mission critical application, my appetite of tolerance for downtime is pretty low. And that, you know, that's not a big shock. But I think what surprised me is, if you look at the slide here, you can see the yellow, you know, the yellow bars, and this really talks to what my tolerance for downtime is, where it's not a mission critical workload. And I think David sort of mentioned it in the introduction, really. I think perception and expectations are changing, and we're certainly in a universe now where this is expectation that everything is always on and always available. So even if my, you know, even if my data warehouse isn't mission critical, the business will stop running tomorrow. There's an expectation it's always available. And I think, as you've seen, sort of the community, sort of IT and you know, the whole smartphone and the internet, I think there's a perception that our tolerance for downtime is, even for things that aren't mission critical, you know, is slowly vanishing. I just think how frustrated you are, you know, when you go onto an airline website and it's down, even though you don't necessarily, you know, need it that second. So we're certainly seeing that sort of penetrate the enterprise. And then the other piece that probably is less of a surprise, I think, is we asked respondents, or the research company asked respondents about their, you know, what do you think the impact of downtime is? And you can see a whole host here, you know, from loss of customer confidence down to direct loss of revenue. And, you know, you can triangulate these results with what you can see in the media. If you just look for, you know, there's a couple of good examples recently. You know, FedEx had a ransomware attack, cost them 300 million. Maersk shipping were down. You know, LA, you know, their port in LA was down for 2 weeks, and that was as the direct result of an outage. And even though those guys were backing up, it took them a long time to get their stuff back. So, you know, this isn't a big surprise to me, but there are lots of examples out there that kind of reinforce that. So I've set the scene now where, you know, hopefully you've understood that our view of data protection is really about the end result, is about being able to bring back data, you know, whatever outage, whatever technology I'm using, it's about being able to bring back data to meet the SLA of the business. So, and we're not necessarily known for data protection. You know, there are lots of vendors out there that provide the orchestration layer. So this slide's kind of interesting because I think it sets the scene for the rest of the session today. But also, you know, when you dig into it, a lot of the capabilities we've got in our Flash Array and Flash Blade products really match up well to deliver, you know, some form of some level of data protection. So we'll work through all of these during the session. So let me just build this one out. So I just want to say kind of a few words about Flash Array. So those of you who are existing Pure customers or have looked at Pure, you'll know that we came to market, and a lot of our initial early success is all built around Flash Array. So FlashArray was the world's first all-flash array. You know, the Purity operating system was built from the ground up to leverage some of the technical advantages of flash disk. And obviously we're very proud of FlashArray and what it's done, you know, and it did disrupt the storage market, you know, considerably. And not only the technology, but I'd say the business model that we run with FlashArray, which has gone to our FlashBlade product. And, you know, our evergreen model where, you know, technology changes, and as part of our evergreen agreement, you know, every time we have a significant controller change, we will come back to you. And as part of that support agreement, we will upgrade your flash arrays in place with the new technology with no downtime. And that's been, you know, we've had 3 technology shifts since we've been shipping FlashArray. And, you know, sometimes it's a technical challenge because you can't always predict the future, but I can safely say we've not had one outage where we've replaced customers in place. So we're extremely proud of that model. And I think the other piece that sort of gets lost with FlashArray is, like everyone else, there's a lot of data you can mine to help you understand performance of your current environment and potentially what it will look like over a period of time. So we're very proud of our Pure One platform that allows, where appropriate, customers, we get, you know, telemetry information from every flash array that's deployed, obviously with our customers' agreements, and we're able to aggregate that. We're able to spot problems really before they start happening. We can see the effect of upgrades and patches and so forth, and it helps you to make capacity planning decisions. So you can see very quickly the effect of new applications and when you're likely to have to extend your storage. So we're very proud of what we've achieved with FlashArray. But really, in the context of modern data protection, I'd certainly say, having spent a lot of time in the data protection market, one of the most important capabilities of FlashArray is its snapshot capability. So we provide, as part of FlashArray, we provide volume level snapshots. You don't need any additional software. You don't need to buy anything. It comes as core part of FlashArray. And again, we're very proud of the snapshot technologies we've built. They're highly optimized. They're very, you know, thin provision snapshots, very easy to roll back. We've deliberately exposed the APIs to our FlashArray snapshots, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And, you know, you have the ability to take those snapshots and move them away from FlashArray, and I'll certainly cover that. But I think the bigger question really is, you know, why are snapshots important in a data protection environment? So again, if you think about mission critical applications, especially ones that are running your business, one of the side effects of doing backup is you're going to have a performance drop, because suddenly not only are you serving up a mission critical application, but what you're also doing is you're actually backing it up. So, you know, you're quiescing the database, you're setting up redo logs, you're freezing transactions. It's quite a backup itself, as I'm sure a lot of you already know, is a very operational, intense activity. So if you're already serving up a mission critical app and then you're starting to do backup, then, you know, you're going to notice performance degradation. And also, if it's a lot of data, it's going to take a long time to back up. You know, if you're doing incrementals, it gets complicated when it gets to recovery. So for a long time, we've seen snapshots, and I'm old enough to remember when, you know, snapshot technology for data protection was the preserve of only the high-end banks and trading floors. It's pretty much a mainstream pursuit these days. And I think the beauty of Pure's snapshotting capability is not only that we've exposed the API for vendors to use, but we've integrated very tightly with our data protection partners at Commvault, Veeam, and Veritas. So they can orchestrate the end-to-end operation. So, you know, as you can see on the slide, one example might be at 8 p.m., I'll take a snapshot and I'll back that up. And then I'll take hourly snapshots all the way through the day until I get to that 8 p.m. Moment again. And then I'll take a snapshot and back it up. But what that gives me is a very low impact backup. These snapshots take milliseconds to create, and FlashArray has the ability to move the snapshot away from the array where it's taken. But again, from a data protection perspective, the beauty of it is it's all orchestrated by the backup product that you're probably using. So certainly for those high-end applications, we certainly recommend leveraging FlashArray snapshots, and they integrate nicely into Oracle and VMware and SQL and so on. So this just gives you a very, a very high level sense, and we certainly be willing to take some questions or do follow-up sessions that talk about all the options you've got just with FlashArray from a data protection perspective. You've got the snapshots that we've talked about. Then if you're really going up, if you're really aiming to reduce your recovery point in your recovery time, you might want to consider active-active clustering. Then for some level of redundancy, you would consider, asynchronous, snap replication. So that allows you to move snapshots away from the data center. And then ultimately, there's a couple of transport mechanisms that we've built into FlashArray. So we have what we call snap to NFS and snap to cloud. And both of these exports, if you like, allow you to take that application consistent snapshot and move it completely out of your FlashArray infrastructure. So we've had snap to NFS for some time, so you can move it to an NFS target. But more recently, we've built snap to S3. And that's really the foundation of our cloud block store announcement that we made probably about 3 or 4 months ago, which is now GA. So very simply, and again, we welcome some questions or even a follow-up session. But cloud block store is the way that we embrace hybrid cloud. So again, if you kind of go back in time to like 2010, public cloud arrived, and everybody thought that was the death of on-prem storage. And for the first sort of 3 or 4 years, the pendulum sort of swung towards public cloud. And I think what we're seeing now is, there's some kind of reset, I think, and the pendulum is sort of swinging backwards now. And I think it's true to say that I think most industry commentators and observers and analysts think that the future is largely a hybrid world. There are some things today that just aren't suitable to go into a public cloud, and high performance mission critical apps generally aren't. But what we've built here with Cloud Block Store is the ability to run FlashArray, as you know and hopefully love today, running on-prem. And then by using our snap to S3, you can take that snapshot and then effectively replicate that to AWS. And then Cloud Block Store itself is effectively an instantiation of FlashArray, but actually running inside of AWS with Azure to follow. So you can run, and you can go to the marketplace and you can see, you can buy, you can purchase FlashArray time, if you like, in ECS. And what this allows you to do is, I can, if I'm in a DR situation, I'm just replicating, I'm replicating FlashArray snapshots to AWS. Then in the event of a failure, I can quickly spin up FlashArray in AWS and then mount up those snapshots. So there, I instantly have a copy. I have a FlashArray running in AWS. You clearly don't get the performance envelope you get of on-prem, but you get everything else. You get the Purity operating system. It looks like, it feels like a FlashArray. So we think this is a great kind of first step on the road to hybrid cloud. So I think I'm going to pause, and I think, David, we have our first poll.
Yes, sir, we do. So I'm going to pop up this poll question now, and I'm curious to see the results of this. The question is, how do you protect your mission critical applications? So are you using snapshots? Are you using a backup application specifically, or some sort of manual scripting, or maybe you have something else in play there to protect those mission critical apps? And I'll share the results of this poll question with you. I already see a lot of responses coming in. Thank you for those. Let's get just a few more responses. All right, lots of good responses coming in. It is a single answer question. We did get some feedback on that. So I'm sure there's some folks out there that are using, all of these or a few of these. In that case, I would just select the one that you're using the most. All right, let me share the results of this with you. And David, looks like 48% are using a backup application of some kind. 39% are primarily using snapshots. What's your take on that?
So I mean, I'll be honest, I'm slightly surprised. I mean, if we were doing this poll like 3 years ago or 4 years ago, I'd probably be, this would make more sense to me. I'm slightly surprised that there are more people using a backup application, rather than snapshots. But as you said, I'm sure people on the call are using more than one method. So I'd certainly say whether you're a pure customer or not, as the result of this, I would certainly go back and just have a think about whether you could benefit from leveraging whatever your primary disk array vendor, hopefully it's pure, but whatever your primary array disk vendor offers in respect of snapshots. So thank you, David.
Absolutely, yeah. Take it away, David.
Great. Okay, so we're going to sort of change gears a little bit now. So we've talked about flash array, we've talked about the concepts of snapshots, but as I think you all saw from the poll there, a lot of you, if not all of you, are using some form of backup application. So I really want to focus the second part of our of this session today, really primarily driven towards the backup application end. So, so again, sort of level set a little bit. Obviously, data recovery is the primary requirement for a backup product. Why backup if you're not going to you're not able to recover? But I think, and again, those of you who've been in the backup industry for a while will know that one of the, I hesitate to say the holy grail, but certainly, one of the, one of the ways the market has been going is, sure, I need to back up, I need to be able to recover, I need to be able to support applications. But the other piece to it is, I'm doing this stuff day in, day out. Can't I make use of this data? Because we all know, certainly you've seen over the last 3 or 4 years that, you hear all sorts of cliches about data being the new oil and so forth. But it's definitely true to say that organizations, can leverage their data for competitive advantage. And I think one of the hindrances to that has been is backup products are either brand new and have limited enterprise support, or they're old or more mature and can support a lot of stuff but don't really have the ability to analyze the information. So our view of the world is, what's key to be able to reuse your data is to be able to recover it quickly. You don't want, if you want to use some of your backup data for test dev, do you want another point solution? Do you want your developers sitting there for 6 hours while you're bringing back a 1 terabyte database? Probably not. So I would keep this in mind as I kind of walk you through our view of the world on this. Just keep in mind that, yes, our first objective is really to be able to recover applications in the SLA that's required. But the second piece is, if I can do that, then the concept of being able to reuse data starts to become, achievable. So I'm just going to quickly skip over this slide. This really just talks to, the state of the industry today around, certainly we've had the industry trend around purpose-built backup appliances. And I saw those arrive, and I think they've generally been great for customers, because I think, it takes all the heartache out of sizing and support and configuration. But again, much like I said in the introduction, all the PBBA vendors generally talk about how well they back up. There's not a lot of conversations about recovery. And ultimately, you end up with, breeding lots of these backup appliances. So every time your data volume goes up, I have to go and buy another purpose-built backup appliance. And unbelievably, and I'm sure I probably should have asked a poll question on this, but I know from my own experience, even recently, there's still a lot of tape, and there's good reasons for customers still to be using tape, but there's still a lot of tape. But generally, whether you're using PBBAs and tape, restore is pretty much a challenge, and the opportunity to reuse data is pretty small. So what's our solution in this space? So I talked about the evolution of FlashArray, and like any good tech organization, we launch with the first product, and then we quickly move on to building our second offering. And this is and you can see from the slide here, this is our FlashBlade offering. I guess the difference here is FlashBlade is not a block device. It's really the market leader for what we call internally fast object. So S3, NFS, SMB, but it's built on blade technology. So every time I add storage, I not only add storage, I also add network, and I also add compute, which really means in terms of performance, we're not in this, peak performance is when it's empty, and as it fills up, we slow down. If anything, with FlashBlade, our performance actually increases. So our throughputs from both read and write actually increase as we add more storage. And really, we conceived, and I think this slide talks to it really nicely, we really conceived FlashBlade to solve a different set of problems. So if you think about the growth in applications, you've got things like Splunk, you've got more and more backup, you've got test dev applications, TensorFlow, AI workloads, log analytics, and so forth. These all need a lot of data, with continuing, a very aggressive increase in data. But some of these applications actually also have a performance metric, right? Backup's an obvious one, but if you've got continuous, into pipeline and integration development, you have to have performance. In-flight data analytics, you need a level of performance. It's not a cheap and deep. It's not suitable for a cheap and deep object store. So that's really why we built FlashBlade, really to be able to meet the requirements of large data and large unstructured data. And in all honesty, when we went to market with FlashBlade about 2 years ago, we knew it would work well with backup and recovery, but we didn't actually think customers would pay for the premium for an all flash, an all flash object store. And actually, we got that wrong. Of course, we had some salespeople, and we all know salespeople will sell it into wherever they think they can do it. And we actually had a bunch of success very early on selling FlashBlade as a backup and recovery target. And in fact, today, if you look at the revenue across our FlashBlade use cases, by far and away the biggest is for what we call rapid restore. So this just really sort of summarizes what I've just said. We have peak backup performance at 90 terabytes an hour. We have peak restore performance though, nearer 270 terabytes. Now you don't always get that because you've got networks and things in the middle, but typically when we've tested in the lab, and you can go to our website after this, we've got a bunch of white papers you can go look at, but where we've tested with the Veritases, the Commvaults, and the Veeam, we're easily getting 20 terabytes, 23 terabytes an hour recovery and above. So let me kind of delve into that a little bit more. So when we talk about rapid restore, we're talking about FlashBlade, and we're also talking about integration is probably not the right word, maybe interoperability is the right word, but there's sort of two segments to it. We have native database interoperability. So if we've got some DBAs on the call, or those of you know DBAs, they love writing their SQL dumps and their RMAN scripts. FlashBlade is a great target for that. And then on the right-hand side, we've effectively got interoperability with pretty much every vendor, every popular backup vendor out there. And when you abstract it away, any backup vendor that can support an S3 target, a NFS target, or an SMB target is perfect for FlashBlade. So before we get into it, David, I think we've got our second and final poll here.
That's right. I just launched the poll, and the poll question is, what data protection product do you use today? The answers there are Commvault, Veeam, Veritas, EMC Networker, or Avamar, or some other solution. And I will share the results of this one with you as well. And while these responses come in, David, did you say that the FlashBlade Rapid Restore solution is compatible with a number of these?
Yeah, so a lot of the, I mean, again, I'm preaching to the people who know way more than me, but generally, if you sort of look at it by protocol, NFS and SMB targets generally don't need, there's no supportability kind of piece you have to work through, because they're so mature and open. Then pretty much every backup product supports it, and there's no compatibility list that you need to appear on. There is a difference with S3. We do find with S3, because it's an evolving protocol, what we do find with S3 is there are compatibility hoops that we jump through to get FlashBlade supported. So a great example of is Commvault, and I'll get to Commvault in this session today. But we've gone through the certification with Commvault. Generally, the backup vendors do a great job of making it self-certifying. So we're in discussions with IBM as we speak, and we know if we want to do S3 with Spectrum Protect, then we have to go through a certification process. But it's generally pretty lightweight, and it's pretty quick. And there are some advantages of going to S3 with FlashBlade. What I would say is it's more of an education for us, because backup vendors generally see S3 as they don't see it as a performant protocol. They see it as a scale up, scale out storage protocol. Where FlashBlade is unique is we're really pushing the performance envelope of S3. And Commvault, for example, we're extremely surprised by the performance numbers we got with S3 versus, say, NFS.
Excellent. Yeah. So the results here, it's kind of across the board. People using a lot of different backup solutions out there. Okay. Looks like Veeam is probably the largest single solution on the results there, but 40% roughly are using something else, really a variety of different things. Is that kind of what you see generally, David?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Commvault number is probably a bit lower than I'd expect. But the rest of it is pretty much in tune. I mean, these are all friends of ours, apart from the one, not the one at the bottom, but the one above. So generally, we work very closely with most of these guys, and I'm slightly surprised about the Commvault number, but the rest of it seems pretty right.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to sort of delve in quickly to some of the rapid restore use cases. So I said at the front of this section, we started out actually with native database support for FlashBlade. So whether you're using RMAN or whether you're using native SQL tools, there's some of the other products, especially on the SQL side, like Quest Lightspeed, and they're about to release an S3 capability that we're very keen to get our hands on. But it's simply a question. And again, there are some white papers, externally facing white papers, that will tell you how to configure and how to get this set up. But it's a very, very simple operation to get your RMAN scripts or your SQL dump scripts. We got a bunch of customers using this, so we can certainly have that conversation offline. But again, what you do see is fantastic. You see great backup performance, but even better recovery performance. And you'll see from when I get to the end of the session today that there are some customers that just chose FlashBlade just on the basis of being able to get their data back quickly. So we've had a lot of success with FlashBlade, and it is a simple question of just doing the scripting for RMAN or SQL dumps that allows you to write to FlashBlade. So I'm glad we got a lot of Veeam customers on the call. This just shows you very simply how we integrate with Veeam. They have great orchestration with their universal storage API, so they can manipulate and manage our flash array snapshots, and then they can offload those to a FlashBlade. And we generally we'll operate with Veeam either with SMB or NFS. We slightly prefer NFS just because it's quicker. But again, out of the box, it's pretty easy to set up, and you can see some numbers we have at the bottom there that really talk to the kind of performance increases that we see with Rapid Restore and Veeam. One of the things I'm really passionate about is Veeam's data labs capability, and I think it really differentiates Veeam as a data protection product. So data labs is their ability to effectively stand up a VMware, a fully functioning VMware instance, but without actually having to recover it. So you're basically mounting up and making available a VMware client or a VMware instance without doing the recovery. And the beauty of that, it runs really well on FlashBlade just because of the architecture. And once you've got that VM spun up, you can then start, testing patches, analyzing for malware, doing some data mining. So I would say a very valuable function and largely underserved. So this is Veritas. So again, we've got some great integration, especially in their 8.2 release, their Net Backup 8.2 release with FlashArray. So again, they've built application consistent snapshots, and now they can leverage our application consistent snapshots and catalog it through the Net Backup master server. And when we talk to customers, and it's largely the theme of today's part of today's discussion is, not every workload needs mission critical FlashBlade style recovery, and Veritas have a pretty good solution for them, for those applications that need, where you can tolerate 4 or 5 hours downtime while you recover with their appliances. What we do find though is FlashBlade fits nicely at that tier, for those tier 0 or tier 1 applications. So we sort of preach with Veritas this right size restore. Look at what you're trying to restore to, and then match the appropriate technology. And then Commvault. So again, a couple of pieces on Commvault. I think they've got the most mature FlashArray snapshot integration. So they've done a great job with IntelliSnap. So again, you get all the orchestration and cataloging features of Commvault with FlashArray. I think kind of what's more exciting, and this slide, even though it's a Commvault specific slide, this is generally how we're starting to see kind of the sort of immediate future of data protection. So Commvault, to their credit, have done a great job with their S3 protocol. And we actually, so as I said earlier, FlashBlade runs as an NFS target, an SMB target, or an S3 target. And generally, we think NFS is easy and the way to go. But we did actually do some testing with S3, and actually, A, it was way more performant than NFS, and B, from a management perspective in terms of setup and administration, S3 was way easier. You just have you have a single bucket, an S3 bucket on the FlashBlade. So that was much easier. And then the third piece, which again, was largely, much like the data labs function of Veeam, kind of the unsung hero, Commvault had actually built a kind of a cloud capability that called Cloud Accelerator, which allowed their clients, their Commvault clients, to write directly to an S3 storage layer, presumably Amazon, and bypass the media server. So there was no data movement there. And actually, by substituting FlashBlade as the S3 target, we have now got Commvault clients writing directly to FlashBlade, only sending metadata to their data, to their data movers, their media agents, and that takes a bunch of load off Commvault's media agent and makes it much simpler to manage. So with S3, we're seeing some evolution and some evolution of backup architectures. So I would encourage you all to think about S3 as a backup protocol, because FlashBlade can really push performance through that. So finally, I'm just sort of going to wrap up here. I'm not going to read these out, but you can see we've got a bunch of success stories here. And what I would say is, we've talked a lot about Rapid Restore, our sort of successful go-to-market around FlashBlade. But it's interesting to note that 80% of our customers who use Rapid Restore also use FlashBlade for something else, whether it's a data warehouse or a Splunk deployment or something of that ilk. So you can see here there's a bunch of customers that, have got rapid restore, being able to get down to an SLA that they need to support the business, but have also reduced their total cost of ownership around power consumption and footprint and data center space. So it really is, we focus very much on rapid restore today, obviously, but there's a bunch of other stuff outside of the rapid restore realm that really drives, some efficiencies, with your storage layers. And kind of finally, let me just get to this slide. My apologies for the eye chart, but this really shows you kind of all the pieces together. So we have flash array, being able to provide that very quick local level of, if you like, data protection through snapshots. Then there's the more global, replication, synchronous snapshots, then the ability to leverage hybrid cloud. And then we've got our, where you can't leverage snapshots or you're not using flash array, then FlashBlade acts as that, acts as that really great repository for your, for those backups, if not all of those backups that need that really quick recovery. And then, we our level of interoperability with our backup partners is second to none. So I think, David, we'll just pause there and we'll do some, I think we're ready to do some Q&A.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great presentation, David. Let's see. We do have some questions for you. If you have a question now about modernizing data protection or any of the challenges you're dealing with data protection, now's the time to get them in. Let's see. First question that came in, John is asking, with the recent reports of ransomware, it's been reported that a ransomware will also delete snapshots as well as backup data. Is Pure able to protect against this?
Yeah, so there's kind of a couple of things to say there. What we're in, and I think that's an extremely good point you raised there. So I think we're approaching ransomware in a couple of ways. Firstly, on the snapshot side, yes, our snapshots are immutable, but you never say never, and administrative accounts can get hacked and so on. So I think you can certainly, we're certainly preaching very much. You should be really using, maybe our Cloud Snap, take that snapshot and put it into AWS, so that you've got to go, ransomware has to penetrate, AWS's infrastructure, which is pretty difficult. And I'd say we do have a forthcoming announcement around ransomware and FlashBlade. So we're going to be utilizing some existing technology on our FlashBlade platform to protect customers really in a last line of defense mode, but be able to protect, actually protect the backup product, right? Because ransomware people are smart. They've gone after primary, the primary snapshots, as John said, but then now we've also come across incidences where they try and go after the backup product. So even if you think you're safe, they can hack your backup product, they can encrypt your backups, and you're sort of dead in the water. So we'll be making an announcement very soon around how we can leverage FlashBlade to actually protect your backup product. So I'd say, John, look at our Snap to S3 for snapshots, and just give us about a month, and we'll be making an announcement around FlashBlade.
Okay, excellent. I look forward to that. So great answer. Another question here, Morgan is asking, how often should disaster recovery plans be revised and tested, in your opinion? What have you seen?
I mean, in my experience, I've generally seen large organizations kind of do it on a quarterly basis. I mean, there's no one size fits all. I think it's great to hear that question, that someone's actually thinking about testing disaster recovery. So I think ultimately the answer comes back to whatever you're tolerant of as an organization. But to share, I've generally seen large corporations like banking, and telco and trading organizations generally do it on a quarterly basis.
Okay, good advice. Another question here: how do I leverage flash array snapshots for backup specifically? How does that work?
So we've exposed, we've exposed to everybody, our REST API on FlashArray. So we just advertise the fact you can do it, and then our backup partners have generally gone off, written the scripts they need to do, and then productize them. And so generally, it's a sort of tiered process. So the backup product will instigate, the schedule, or the immediate backup will say, time to do a snapshot. We'll send an API call to FlashArray. FlashArray has the application integration. So we'll talk to the application. So let's say it's Oracle. We'll put Oracle into hot backup mode. The redo logs will start. And then, the backup product then, mounts that snapshot probably on a media server or whatever their data mover is. And then we'll either just catalog it and just leave the snapshot where it is, or in some cases do that offload to a FlashBlade or another backup target. So it's really, you can go and see the API calls yourself. You can even write your own scripts. We certainly have a lot of Oracle and SQL admins that do that. So it's all publicly available. It's pretty transparent.
Okay. Excellent. And there's a number of questions asking for more information. I think, did you have a slide at the end?
Oh, sorry, my apologies. Yes, we did have a final slide here. So this will just take you through. This is the stuff pertinent to this session today, but I certainly encourage you to go to our public website. We have a lot. We're very because our customer experience is key to us. So, when we do our interoperability testing around Veritas and Veeam and Commvault, we like to write solution guides that are designed for technologists on, how to deploy and what kind of results you should be seeing. So they're all available on the external website too.
Okay, excellent. Well, let's see, another question just came in from John. He's asking, with Evergreen, if a customer has these products today and new capabilities are created that thwart some future ransomware threat, wouldn't a client get those new capabilities and software offerings as part of their maintenance?
So, so let me kind of delineate here a little bit. So if you're on the Evergreen model, obviously, as we enhance the Purity operating system, we get, the patches, I get we all get notes internally when we release a new version of Purity, and that, you get a decision as a customer whether you want to automatically deploy or not. And it's pretty much the same with the hardware. So as we have significant model changes on the FlashArray side, so we've gone from M to X as an example. We took all of our, and it's also in our interest to do that, right? We don't want to support everything in the universe. I mean, that's a problem in the backup world, right? Some backup products have only just stopped supporting NT4. So we like to keep our customers current. So as long as you're subscribing to the Evergreen service, we will, if you were on an M, right, we would come to you, we would figure out when we come to you, we'd send Pure engineers. And then I'm just talking in respect of a hardware change. We would then migrate you from what was an M to what currently is an X. And that could be a form factor change. It will certainly be a controller change. And we will do that non-disruptively. Some customers decide they don't want to do that and aren't subscribing to the Evergreen service, but you get the software updates as a matter of course. You have a choice as a customer whether you want to remain, if you want to be part of the Evergreen service, so you can move from an M to an X.
Okay, makes sense. Let's see, another question. Isn't FlashBlade just another purpose-built backup appliance?
Great question. So, I mean, simply, I wouldn't have done my job if you walk away today thinking that it is. I mean, if I abstract it to 150,000 feet, FlashBlade is a blade-based all-flash storage offering. So I guess apart from its architectural differences in respect of blade, storage, compute, and network, the other big difference is you can run, you can look at this as a fast object store piece of storage. So you can run anything, anything goes on FlashBlade. Clearly, large unstructured data applications, work the best. It's not a block device, so it's not a flash array. So anything that needs NFS, CIFS, SMB, or S3 runs really well on FlashBlade. And I think that's the beauty of it. You know, what we've seen in some of those success stories is the ability for FlashBlade to be able to consolidate, you know, workloads from, you know, a Splunk platform and Elastic, you know, TensorFlow, and back up onto one, you know, one highly performing, highly scale out piece of storage.
Excellent, excellent. All right. Let's see, another question here you might want to clarify. If I want to deploy FlashBlade, don't I have to change my backup product?
So, and again, I guess the beauty of FlashBlade is because it's more, I hate using the word general purpose, but I really can't think of another one right now. You know, we're very aggressive about doing interoperability testing, as I said during the session. So, but we understand that changing your backup product, especially if you're in a massive enterprise environment, you know, some customers have 10,000 backup clients, and changing that out overnight is highly risky and expensive. So we really talk about modifying, enhancing, choose whatever word you're comfortable with, the underlying backup storage. So we think it's better for you, you know, as long as you're happy with your backup, your data protection product, for us to come in and modernize what you're doing with FlashBlade. So the short answer is, as long as it's been tested, especially with S3, you don't have to change any of your backup product. And you saw from the slides, we have pretty much all the major ones covered.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I mean, this sounds like the solution that so many companies out there really need, especially when it comes to protecting themselves from a ransomware, to be able to do those kind of mass restores. It's been a great presentation, David. Really energetic, fast-paced. I learned a lot. I know the audience did as well. Thank you for being on the event today.
Yeah, and thank you. I really appreciate you, A, carving out the time, and B, sending us all the great questions. And I think if we've got questions we haven't answered, we'll certainly make a point of coming back to you.
Absolutely. Yeah, tons of great questions for the audience. Thank you, everyone who attended the event today. Before we go, I want to award the Amazon $300 gift card to Nicholas Rensel from Michigan. Congratulations to Nicholas. We'll reach out to you, to deliver that gift card. And I also want to point out to everyone to make sure you check out those handouts that are available for download right there in your audience console. There's 5 handouts available that David has shared. Go ahead and click on those now to download those. They won't be available after the event unless you go to purestorage.com. And with that, make sure you do check out purestorage.com, and specifically the FlashBlade Rapid Restore solution. Thanks for being on the event today, David.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your attention.
And thanks, everyone. Have a great day.